I want to tell you about two conversations that I had recently. The one was with the CIO of a multi-billion rand company, and the other one is with a startup entrepreneur. Now, why I want to tell you these two stories is because there's a strong similarity between both of them. So, what was the issue? The CIO came to see me a couple of weeks ago at my office, and the issue that he is facing is that he has been tasked with digital transformation of his company, and he has huge plans how to take his company and position it as a global leader in the tech space. But there's a problem, and that problem is that he just can't find the talent. Look, we all know that it's your team that can make or break your business. When you look at the example of Amazon, Amazon built their business on the strength of the type of people that they hire. But here, this poor guy can't find the right talent. Leave aside retaining them, he can't find them. And when he does occasionally find someone, then they are just not up to the job. They just are not up to the quality. They don't have that vision that he has. They're not buying into his vision. They're not buying into his business values and what it's trying to do. And if he does perchance get somebody good, they last with him a few months, and then they get offered a higher price somewhere else, and off they go. So they get poached. Startup entrepreneur, same thing. I speak to dozens of startup entrepreneurs who have brilliant ideas, but you know what? There's just not the people to implement those ideas. Maybe it's an app, maybe it's an IoT solution that they have, maybe it's some AI solution that they have. But the trouble is they can't find the right people, and so they are stuck right there in the ideation phase. The problem is that there isn't a focus on transformative learning at our educational institutes. And that's why I founded IT Varsity, right? To provide a transformative learning experience. Now, I won't say we are quite there. I won't say that we've already achieved what we wanted to achieve. We are getting there. But the thing is, we have that vision. Our vision is to produce visionary leaders through transformative education. That's what we want to do. I want, personally, this is my personal mission, that at least 10 of Africa's biggest startups will be founded by IT Varsity graduates. That's what I want. And how we are doing that? Through transformative learning. Now, the great thing about transformative learning is this, that we are living in an era now where transformative learning is more possible, more likely, and easier than ever before in the history of mankind. Why? Because of two things. Because of online learning and artificial intelligence. Believe it or not. Now, you probably came across, where it comes to artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, large language models, you probably came across horrific headlines like AI will destroy education. There's another one here, cheating made easy, AI and academic integrity. That heading alone tells you that the person writing this is dead against AI. Or this one, the risk of AI over-reliance in the classroom. Now, you probably came across headings like this, and you probably came across people ranting about how AI is going to negatively affect education. But let me tell you something completely different. What I'm telling you is this, that AI, on one hand, it is not going to destroy education, and on the other hand, it's going to give us power to transform education in such a way that's never been done in the history of mankind. Let me repeat myself. AI is not going to destroy education, but rather it's going to give us the power to educate people in ways that we've never done in the history of mankind. So AI has brought us to a point where it can bring about positive transformation in education, so positive that we will be able to produce people with the right knowledge, skills, attitudes, wisdom. In other words, AI will enable us to produce, to give a transformative learning experience. And that's what I loved about, or what I love about AI, and why we've completely embraced AI at IT Varsity. Now, this shouldn't have been such a big change in education. A change in education was happening from a long time, from decades ago. Because we are sitting on an education system that's over 150 years old. And exactly how it was done then, it's still getting done now. Come the age of computers, education remained the same. Come the age of the internet, education remained the same. Come the age of online videos, learning management systems, education remained the same. We refused to change. But there were no serious consequences. We refused to change, there weren't consequences, so we slid across. We glided, we continued with the age-old methods of education. But now what AI is doing, AI is now exposing the rot underneath. It is lifting up the layers and it is exposing the rot underneath. AI is not damaging education. The education system itself is rotten. The old way of doing things. AI, all it's doing is that it's surfacing that rot and it's showing us, here's the problem here. Really, what are you doing? Why are you educating people? Are you educating for that flimsy piece of paper? Are you educating, are you pouring facts into people's heads just to give them some knowledge so that they can pass a mediocre exam and get a mediocre piece of paper? Or are you educating people to transform them? Are you educating for mastery? Are you educating to produce visionary leaders? If it's not that you're educating for the latter reasons, and if you're only educating to pass an exam, then of course AI is a risk to you, because AI is going to give you all sorts of problems. People are going to plagiarize. They're going to ask ChatGPT to do things for them. They're going to use any large language models to do things for them. And as much as you will put checks and balances into place and guardrails into place, a time will come, they will overcome that. And then you put more guardrails and your students will overcome that too. They will find a way to beat you, and they'll find a way to beat your system, because your system is rotten. The university system is rotten. I was speaking to a university lecturer today. In the university, they produced, in the past 5 years, they produced 50 doctoral students, 50. And out of those, only 5 are employed. 5, 10% employment rate. 45 PhDs can't get jobs. You know why? Unemployable. They're damn good at studying. They're damn good at filling their heads with knowledge. Damn good at reading books. But actually do something, they can't. So AI is not going to damage education. Rather the opposite. It's going to cause education to blossom, to reach to levels that we've never seen before. And I'm going to show you how in this video. This is not a false promise. I'm going to show you how through my own personal examples. Example 1. The thing that's needed is personalized learning. Now, there was a study done in the 1970s or 80s on the impact of group learning versus personalized learning. And hands down, personalized learning was a lot better. Was the student that went through personalized learning did a hell of a lot better. Now, it's not just about improving the learning. It's not just about improving. It's about giving learners a chance to really study. And I'll tell you why. Take a subject like mathematics. Mathematics is a cumulative subject. And I used to teach maths up to grade 12 level, right? So it's a cumulative subject, which means that every concept you learn will have advanced concepts later on that will depend on it. So if you are doing grade 10 mathematics, then there's something in grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to grade 9 mathematics that link up to grade 10. So if you missed out those concepts from grade 1 to 9, you will not understand grade 10 concepts in mathematics. Now what happens with a lot of students, with the vast majority of students, is that they've arrived at the higher grades, maybe grade 10, 11, 12, whatever it is, but they forgot certain concepts in the past. They forgot certain concepts that they should have known in the past. So for example, they're doing simplification of fractions in grade 10, but they forgot something relating to multiplication and division that was done in grade 6. And so they are struggling. And we think, and they think, that this kid is stupid, that this kid just can't get it. But it's not that. It's that they are missing a link in the chain. And when that link in the chain is missing, then everything else falls apart. Now, what's needed to be done there is for those learners to be able to be given a personalized experience. First and foremost, what I would do as a teacher, if I had the time, that's a big thing. If I had the time, I would do a diagnostic on that learner and try and understand, why is this learner not coping with this concept? And through a series of diagnostic tests, I would establish that, okay, you're struggling with grade 10 because you missed out concept A, B, and C. Not that I know how to do that. And not that as a teacher I would have been able to do that, because I've got 35 learners in my class, I've got no time for the one. And by no time does not mean I don't care, but it means literally I just don't have the time. Now, when I was teaching at a school in Escort, what we tried to do was to remedy this problem by coming up with a remedial class, so that the learners that were struggling with certain subjects and certain concepts would go into that remedial class. But that failed because that remedial class was seen more as a place of humiliation and a place of punishment. Oh, you're in the remedial class. Oh, pity you. And so it became demotivational for those learners. So that's the problem number one. There isn't personalized learning. Now, in the age of AI, we can bring in this personalized learning. And this is how we can do it. And this is something we are actually doing at IT Varsity. We are developing a system called Caitlin that's going to provide personalized learning. And this is how it's going to work. You've got two learners that are starting at the same point in their learning. And they are being given lesson after lesson to do by an AI system. But suddenly the one learner starts slowing down while the other learner is just continuing as normal. So what the AI will be able to do is to detect through a series of questions and a series of tests why this learner is slowing down or why this learner is struggling with a concept. And the AI will be able to diagnose that something that was covered in the past sections he didn't quite understand. So what the AI will do is that it'll go back, it will guide that learner, create an alternative learning pathway, a personalized learning pathway for that learner, and say, I think you should go and study section A, B, and C, and then come back here. So this learner will go study that, come back and say, hey, I understand this now. I didn't understand that, and that's why I was failing to understand this. And so the AI will push this person forward. Customized, personalized learning. Now, how will that work in the corporate sector? Simple. How it will work in the world of business? Simple. You as an entrepreneur will say to the AI, and this is what's going to be built into Caitlin, you will say to Caitlin, look, I need a person who is skilled with A, B, and C, and who is going to be required to build this kind of app. So the AI will customize that learning for the learner to go into that business and meet the requirements of that business, because no two business requirements are the same, right? Different businesses have different requirements. So the AI will be able to develop a learning pathway for your staff, for your future staff, the ones that are students currently at IT Varsity but are going to be your future staff, and it's going to push them forward and prepare them for your business. How incredible is that? The second thing, and I'll tell you this by means of a story. When I was lecturing Java programming at a private college, now Java is a difficult subject, just like maths, and it's cumulative, just like maths, meaning that certain parts, the harder concepts rely on the simpler concepts to understand. If you didn't understand the early concepts, you will not understand the advanced concepts. So I was teaching at this university, and it was a very frustrating experience for me because day after day, I would give my students exercises to do, and they would come back with the exercises not done. They would understand the concepts, and I tested them in class. They understood the concepts, for loops, variables, object-oriented program. They understood everything. But go home, do the exercises, come back, not done. And mine was their major subject. If they didn't pass, they would be in serious trouble. And so one day I sat down with them and I did one-on-one interviews. And I said, guys, what is going on here? My subject is an important one. You seem to be enjoying my subject, but you don't do the work. So the one young guy told me something very interesting that really changed my approach to teaching. He said, sir, the time when I need you the most, you are not there. So I asked him to explain. He said, see, I understand the concepts. As you say, I do understand the concepts in class. But when I go home and it's time to do those exercises, I mess up something. Java programming is hard. You put a dot here, or you miss out a semicolon there, and everything falls apart. And I sit and I struggle with this thing for hours and hours. I scratch my head. And I think to myself, I wish I could ask my teacher for a hint on what I'm doing wrong here. But of course, it's personal time, and the students didn't want to disturb me. And so they would leave the work undone and come to class the next day. So I took this as an insight, and I went back and I thought about how I can change the situation. And so I decided to flip my classroom. This is what I did. I recorded my lessons and put them onto YouTube. They are still there up till today, some of them. And then, instead of standing in the class and being a content delivery mechanism, instead of standing and just teaching, I would tell my students that your homework for today is to go and watch those videos and understand the concepts. I will test you the next day in class. And when they arrived at class the next day, I would do a spot test. Okay, explain to me what for loops are. Explain to me this, explain. They would understand. First 5-10 minutes gone, they understood that. The rest of the time, I would give them exercises. And they would do those exercises under my nose right there in the classroom. And they would fly through those exercises. Even if they asked me questions, I would refuse. I would say, go and ask 2 of your friends. If you don't succeed there, come and talk to me. And they would go and ask their friends, sorted. They would fly. They loved it. The head of the institute came and met me and he says, what are you doing? Your students love your class. Now this is example number 2 of how technology can and will transform education completely. The flipped classroom model, using multimedia to make learning more engaging, to not just engaging, but to enhance the interaction between student and teacher, because that's what they need. They don't need content delivery. Trust me. There's somebody on YouTube doing it far better than you as a teacher. I'm sorry to be so harsh with you, but that's the fact of the matter. Whatever you are teaching in your class and writing on your chalkboard, there's somebody on YouTube, somebody online somewhere, Vimeo, that's doing it far better than you can imagine. And your learners are watching that. They're not watching you. What you can do for your learners is, the best thing you can do is give them your time and give them your attention and your guidance. Now let me give you a third example of how technology can and is already transforming education. Now this is a different sort of story. Here I was teaching maths to younger kids. This is going further back in my history, grades 4, 5 and 6. And there I found a completely different set of problems. These learners were very sharp, but they were just demotivated. They were just lazy. They didn't want to study maths. And they had this thing already at that young age that we hate maths. So what I decided to do was I built a little spreadsheet. I coded a spreadsheet that would give them maths exercises to do, right? Sums, just sums upon sums on the different concepts. And what they would be required to do was to work those out as quickly as possible, put in the answers, and then the background code would then evaluate that the answers that they put in, grade their work, and give them a score based on the time that it took them. And I would say to them, right, kids, sit in the computer lab now and go, let's get started. So they would do these exercises. And guess what? That score at the end of it meant a whole lot to them, because they would peep at each other's computers. You got 88%, I only got 78%, I think I'm going to try again. And so they just kept on trying and trying and trying to beat each other. But guess what was happening in the interim? While they were doing that, they were getting better and better and better at maths. This foundation was solid. They understood those concepts and they did problem upon problem. They solved problems upon problems, maths problems, and they became sharper and sharper. They flew through the exams. Now, this is called gamification of learning. Because when you are playing a video game, what are you after? You're after that achievement. You want to do better than everyone else. You want to see progress. So the first time you did the worksheet, maybe the first few times you scored in the 40s and then the 50s and the 60s. There's nothing more motivational than to see your score going up. Now, interestingly enough, I subsequently converted that spreadsheet into a mobile app called Arithmetic, which in 2012, this was a very long time ago, I submitted it for the Vodacom App Star Award and it won. So it was the 2012 winner of the Vodacom App Star Award. And then finally, the fourth way that AI is transforming education. Another problem that I found with learners, that in a class, in a typical class, and any teacher who is watching this or listening to this will understand this problem here. You always got those in the class who are very forward, very conversant, and then you got those kids sitting somewhere in the back there that just keep quiet the whole time. You've got your extroverts and you've got your introverts and you've got everyone in between. Now the trouble in class is when you ask a question, class, did you understand? Everybody says, yes, I understood. But those that are afraid to ask, it could be the extroverts and introverts, whoever, but kids are afraid generally to ask questions or to say, I didn't understand, because they don't want to disappoint you or they don't want to embarrass themselves. Or they just are so introverted, they just don't want to talk. The last thing they want is any attention drawn to them. And this happens with us adults too. That's the one problem. The second problem is guidance counseling. It's not just speaking to the teacher in the class, but speaking to somebody to help you resolve issues that you are having. We, even at IT Varsity, being a tertiary institute, we have lots and lots of students with personal problems, so personal that they can't talk to anyone about it. Now, looking at these two problems, we can find one AI to solve both of them. Chatbots. Using large language models like ChatGPT, we can now create chatbots that are so powerful and so effective that a kid can ask a question and say, see, I didn't understand today's maths explanation on binomials. Please explain that to me again, and it'll give the answer. Or I'm struggling with something at home. What steps do you recommend I take? It will give an answer. I think you should do X, Y, and Z. Speak to this person and that person or that person. Get help here and there. Read this book or that book. This resource or that resource. Now, the advent of AI-driven chatbots. Now, I know chatbots in the past were absolutely junk. They were absolutely horrible. But today's chatbots are completely different. Look at ChatGPT, how far it's gone. And so that's the fourth way that AI is going to transform education. Kids will be able to ask questions. They'll be able to speak whatever they want to speak. What they were afraid to ask the teacher, now they will ask the AI and they will get accurate answers. Isn't that beautiful? So let's go through them again. Number one, personalized learning. Number two, flipped classroom, where the teacher is not a content delivery mechanism. Let the internet deliver the content. You interact with your learners. Number three, gamification of learning. In its simplest or advanced forms, it's up to you, but gamification is there. Number four, questions and discussions. The ability for students to be able to speak to someone about their challenges. Isn't that incredible? Isn't it incredible what AI can do? And yet here we are worrying about AI destroying education. It's sad. It's really sad. Now, in conclusion, my appeal to teachers is this: become an AI-powered super teacher. And how you do this is to broaden your sights beyond just your volition, beyond just what you are teaching, and become a technology guru also. Learn about technology, learn what's going on in the world of technology, particularly in the world of educational technology, in the world of AI. What is AI doing in the education space? So then the next question is, where and how do you learn? Simple, watch my videos. That's all I talk about. Here on YouTube, on TikTok, join my mailing list, join my Facebook group. I've got a Facebook group where I just give advice to teachers and parents on how to teach kids technology, using technology, how to teach them using all the latest and greatest technologies. So become aware of that. And finally, if you want me to come to your school, I'll be happy to do that, right? I run workshops for teachers. My workshop is entitled Becoming an AI-Powered Super Teacher. Call me to your school. I don't charge schools. Maybe I'll ask you to cover my travel expenses, but that's it. I won't charge you. I'll come, I'll do my workshop with you guys, and I will transform the way you teach. So think about it. Teachers, it's time to embrace technology. It's time to embrace AI. Otherwise, we are going to become extinct.